And so for some context, this particular agent, it's a social media ghostwriting agent. And you can use this. I've used this for LinkedIn posts because that's just where I mostly post. Personally, I get about 500,000 impressions each year on LinkedIn. I don't go uber viral, but 500,000 impressions is pretty good just for spending about 5-10 minutes a day sharing different topics. And my main bias for working with this kind of agent and a social media ghostwriter is I want as much human in the loop as possible. I think AI slop is already the death of different algorithms and For You feeds. And so how I've set up this specific agent is it's set up as a ghostwriter in a personal Slack. So I'm just going to share the Slack screen. And in this Slack, so I've got like different notes. I've got different things that different notes, different KPIs, different information in different channels. But I also have a different channel for different agents that I work with. And so for this specific agent, you can see in the last 2 days, we're just testing it as we're prepping for this. This agent is a draft virtual ghost writing agent. And what it does is it can take anything like a YouTube video, a website, a meeting doc that I just had, and it can figure out, hey, based off this information, what could make an interesting post? So if we just look at this one, this from yesterday, this is a really interesting AI hardware company. They're creating a USB key or a USB-C key that you can plug into your phone to have a phone computer use agent. Siri is not keeping up with AI agents. And so it's just super interesting, both on the form factor and the hardware side. Will people buy this? I don't know, but I found this interesting. And based off of the ghostwriting agent, I was like, hey, I've got this specific startup. What could be an initial post? The post itself, pull this up. The first post itself, it's doing initial research. So it's like, hey, based off of this AI key from the startup, DAF, here's some information around that I looked up, right? It's why it's important. It's not Siri 2.0. Trust is one of the biggest things they're trying to figure out. They're the creators of Suna.so, which is an agentic browser, which has 17,000 stars on GitHub. So we have this enriched post that if I was working with a ghostwriter, they just research back, right? Here's what I found based off this information. Based off of that, I'm like, hey, that looks generally good, but that's not how I write. Let's actually rewrite this in my own voice. And so this one was so-so. I was like, nope, still not quite there. Let's do another one. And so it also iterated again. And now we're starting to get something that I think, and I like writing in like startup founder memos. I think it's pretty compressed just in terms of the information. So starting to get something that like looks a little bit more like I would write. And still not there. So even just being able to talk with this assistant of like, hey, I like the general voice now, but I want more product focus. Like I really want to highlight this as a product. And now we're starting to get some more details of like, hey, this is about mobile automation. It's USB-C plug and play. And there's not a lot of details on it right now. So that's why it's pretty light. And then also in this, I was like, hey, I don't even know if I want to post about this particular hardware startup. Let's just post about a different one, Omi AI. And it can just change, just like talking to a virtual assistant, it can change directions in chat and be like, hey, here's what Omi looks like as an open source hardware device. And so that was one example from a website link. Looks like Rohan, you have a question. You want to ask the question?
Yes, thank you for bringing up the point of authenticity. To me, the biggest concern is that if all of us start using this and our LinkedIn feed starts getting spammed with so many of these kind of, everybody would want to put out some content to get the user engagement. My point is, how do we make this authentic so that I know that what the content I'm putting out is in a world with no AI, it would still be something that I would put out. So is that like, do we have to train the agent to be more like us and not like everyone else?
It's a great question. And I'll show what this looks like on the prompting side and some of the context enrichment for making this. Like the agent that I have is going to be different than the agent that you have. And so we'll talk about a couple different ways to personalize it, but the prompt and the writing is one. And again, for context, my main recommendation is if you've never, ever posted on LinkedIn before, don't just go straight to agents. Take a week and just manually write a post. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long it takes, manually write the post to figure out what do you write about? What do you want to share? What is your brand? What is interesting for you? On my side, I know I like listening and exploring what the latest is in startups and in different information. So I know my starting point, I know where I get that inspiration from. And so being able to work with a virtual assistant, I have an idea of what a post is just in terms of the content that's interesting for me. So if you've never wrote on LinkedIn, my main recommendation, take a 5-day challenge, post for yourself, and then you can use that to then customize your agent too. Because again, the goal for this agent is to augment your writing ability and the content you want to put out, not just automate it. So, and I'll share what that looks like on the back end too. So that's a great question, Rohan.
Thank you. One quick follow-up. Does the agent learn and improve, or is it static?
It can. The one we're going to build today is static, but you can build in feedback loops. So we'll end today talking about what that looks like.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And so just as an example to show that this isn't just a demo that's in a sandbox, I was in the All In Pod weekly, and they had a really interesting highlight of OpenAI's investment in retro bioscience. For context, there's a big push in large language models right now. GPT-5 just came out. What does GPT-6 look like? But there's also small language models like ChatGPT 4B Micro, which is just built to understand protein models. So this was a conversation with this research agent saying, hey, I really like this as a case study. I don't think enough people understand the value of small language models. Let's see what this looks like. Going back and forth with it. We got this, actually really liked this style. It actually gave me different options of what I could write with. And so based off the different options, I picked one, refined it. Went back and forth. And that was the post I did today. And so initial idea was something I thought was interesting. I ended up rewriting the hook. Again, you can tune these things based off of exactly how you write, to Rohan's point, which we can get to, but rewrote the hook, kept about 80% of the copy the same, and then I changed the ending too, because I thought it'd be more interesting to figure out what are other potential small language models. So this is something that's been super helpful. It takes a lot of the cognitive load out of writing social posts, but also, again, I feel more empowered. Like I feel like I just got like a Ferrari I can go super fast in versus riding like a bicycle of like trying to type or use ChatGPT. So that's how the agent works. It's in Slack. You don't have to be in Slack. We're going to build it today with the web, just the web chat, so you can use it in Lindy. And so there's three main parts to this particular agent. It gets a message, because again, I want it as a virtual assistant in Copilot. There's an agentic step with a bunch of tools, and you can add your own tools too on this agent step for what you want it to do and how you imagine it working. For this agent, for me, I have it going through meeting notes in Google Docs. I have it doing research in Perplexity. I have it grabbing information on the web, and then also reading YouTube videos. Those are kind of the main areas that links or starting points that I would give it. That's just what I do personally. And then after the agent does an initial draft, then there's a condition step that says, hey, if you want more research, go back to step one. If it's good to go, and let's edit it. To Rohan's point, this is one of the areas that you can personalize. Here's an editing call to an LLM, so you can actually get feedback in your own voice. You can give it your own criteria. And then lastly, it's able to rewrite the post based off that feedback. So this particular agent feels like I got a team of 3 different sub-agents all doing one task, and we're going to get to build it together. Brett, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question. Obviously, I can see now by your agent build kind of the direction of where you're going. Yeah. It almost feels a little bit like you're doing one-to-one, kind of repurposing various things that are important to you. What I was curious about was, this is something I've thought about a lot of. I find I get down a little bit of a rabbit hole where, let's just take YouTube as an example. I have a topic area that I'm very interested in. So I'm a 30-year vet in cybersecurity. I've been doing cybersecurity stuff for a long time, and I've really wanted to start to publish more content specific to my industry, and most importantly, things like cybersecurity as it relates to AI and things like that. Okay, so let's say I find 2-3 YouTube components that have elements to them. I don't want to just do it on a one. What I want to do is I almost want to bring in 2 or 3 different components and then bring them sort of summarized together. And I actually would like it to be able to cite the source components. So I don't want to like take away from the individuals who put their content out. I actually want to cite them. Yep. and put them into that content component. Are we able to, like, would you create a loop around that to grab those things? Or would you?
I'll talk through that use case. You could use this template as is, and you're just going to change one of the prompts in the agent itself. So this can handle that. So
just more of a prompt thing rather than a loop component to go through those.
Exactly. Which we'll go through. And my main recommendation too, as you're building out agents, testing agents feels like whack-a-mole. You have an idea of what you want it to do, like take it for YouTube videos, and it'll take in the information, but maybe it doesn't cite it. So depending on the behavior you're expecting or wanting, it'll take a little bit of testing afterwards. But we'll test this live to see if we can do 2 or 3 YouTube videos at once. So we'll see. We'll see if we can do it. Great question. Awesome. So to start, if you have 2 paths to build along, I just posted the Notion guide in the chat. If you want to just go straight from the template, this guide has the template link. Got the template link right here. Feel free to click this. That should pull it up in the canvas already built. And it's got the prompts in here too, so you can even start building and tinkering if that's your style. If you want to build along, I think it's really important to be able to understand how to build something from scratch. So we're going to go from a blank canvas. You can open Lindy. From blank canvas, we're going to build this up just so you can start to understand both the fundamentals. And for someone like Matt who has a custom Copilot, you can decide, is Lindy actually helpful enough where you might move out of the custom Copilot? Maybe the answer is no. Totally okay. That's a good takeaway just from a quick build along. So in terms of Lindy and agents, we've got the trigger, which just wakes up the agent. You can think of this as like, how are you trying to tell the agent it should start? And for this one, I'm using Slack because that's the main channel that I use for different agents. We're going to use the web received one. So if we replace this guy, chat with Lindy is just a web portal where it's getting a message. You could do, for this trigger, you could do things like email. If you use email a lot and you want the agent to meet you in email, just like you would another team member, you could do this in email. I had this set up in Slack for the demo. If you want to do in Slack, you could do in WhatsApp, any place you wanted to text this assistant, you could meet them there. What we're going to start with is just message received on the web browser. It's the quickest that I find to test these different things. So we have message received. Once the message is received, I'm going to show you just the simplest version, and then we'll build this fully out. We're just going to do an LLM call. So get a message, send an API call to an LLM, and then send a message back out. And so for Matt, who's doing a custom GPT, this is what this looks like, right? You're sending a message in. You're having some kind of API call. So with Lindy on the right side, you've got the ability to, you've got different parameters for each node. And parameters you can set manually. What you type in here, so I can say you are a helpful editing assistant for a social media copy. What you type in here will be seen. You can do prompts, so you can prompt it to think through what would better prompt would be based off the context. Or you also could do auto. Auto is Lindy trying to figure out in itself what to do for this prompt, which one of the benefits of having agents is there's context in each window where after each node, that context gets pushed forward. And so for this, we'll keep this manual for now, just because in terms of having human in the loop, I think designing your own prompts and expecting your own behavior is important. So we can say, hey, and so this is just as simple as possible, just showing the initial use case for Lindy, where you've got message in, call an API, and then message out. And the prompt I'm going to pull in here is actually going to be from the editing prompt. So we can start to see how the prompt structure is set up, because prompting agents in agentic workflows can be a little bit different than if you're just prompting for different tasks. So I'm pulling up just another window here, and then we'll copy and paste that in here. So for this prompt itself, personally, I use Markdown format for my prompts. So one hashtag space is just a headline one, and this is what's setting up the different context. Really like Karpathy's post in June. He was saying, hey, we're not in a world of prompt engineering anymore. We're in a world of context engineering. How do you take past LinkedIn posts, past successes, criteria, and bring that into the context window so you start to get behavior that you're expecting? So for this one, we've got the prompt itself. Review this post and make sure that it's good. Adding in criteria. So it's a very just subjective, rate this 1 to 5. And then specifically on each one of the criteria, re-rate it again for here. So for someone who's asking, how do we personalize this? You might have a different editing process here for how you want your post to sound like you, or how you would evaluate if it's a good post or not. You could change this to like structure. You could change this to really focus just on like the hook and give examples. So this is one area that you can personalize for yourself. And then for the editing specific call, right now I'm giving it's a one-shot prompt. So not just saying, hey, think about the criteria and rewrite this post. I'm saying based off of this example. So this is a post that I wrote myself, one of the highest performing posts in the last 30 days. So I gave it this example to say, hey, just so you know, here's the kind of writing that I like to do, especially on LinkedIn. And that's working. This is one that's gotten some of the most, this is one that's gotten good reception on the platform. So we've got this as an example. And then finally, the last thing is the prompt itself, shared bullet point suggestions to rewrite this. And I'll delete this guy. So Now that we've got this post, we're just going to test Lindy. So hit deploy. Deploy is like hitting save or publish. We see that it's on here. Going to go into tasks because it's an online chat. I don't need to open up Slack. I don't need to integrate it. I can just use here. So I'm just going to talk to this. Let's say I want to write posting a 1-hour build along in Lindy new agents. So now as in Lindy itself, you've got the flow editor, which is being able to see all of the different nodes and how the agent is set up. And then you have the task manager, which is as you can have agents running multiple tasks at once. To Brett's point, you can set up different loops where it's now running sub agents. This is your main source of truth where you're seeing what's actually happening on the agent side. And so here we can see, hey, we did an LM call. This LM call specifically is an editing. So let's see what the edit came like. And then the output here, 3 out of 5 rating for this, just this text specifically, authentic voice, not a good hook, no brand persona. It's confusing. Cool, and so we're actually getting a little bit of mix up here where it thinks the post, so we can see here it's talking about philosophy, it's talking about information. So it's actually taking in this information as the LinkedIn post. And so what I'll do here at the end, share bullet point to rewrite this post. This is the LinkedIn post you are editing. And so again, in terms of whack-a-mole, being able to see what the outputs are and what that looks like, just adding this back into this context. And so in Lindy, anything that's before the post, when you pull up the prompt editor, you'll get the information here. And so let's see if this will work. Do a new task, so new test. Here is my new LinkedIn post. Let's see if that works. Good news about Lindy, anytime anything doesn't work, you're going to get a visual bug back, or you'll get the information that says, hey, we can't actually use the do not observe, so I don't need that. So let's take that out. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say user message. Anytime you use curly brackets, that's just grabbing information. So everything in Lindy in the prior step gets pushed forward. So I'm just going to use this, and it knows that, hey, I got this message, and I'm going to use this message in this part of the prompt. So that's one thing that makes Lindy really interesting, is when you start having 5, 10 different tools connected, you can pull up that context forward. So let's try this one more time. Got a new task in. And we're doing this editing call. Let's see what the output is. So LinkedIn post. Okay, so we're starting to get some feedback in the workflow I was using. This isn't the final output. I just wanted to get some feedback to then feed a writing step. And so we're starting to see, hey, like could get a stronger hook, need to add like value, like it's not clear what this post is about, include a call to action, add urgency. These are all generally good steps. If in terms of an editing, we're now getting feedback that would be passed forward to the next step. So just wanted to share this in terms of like thinking about Lindy, you've got a trigger, you've got an action, and then you've got some kind of output. And so one of the things that makes Lindy really interesting, so I'm just going to delete these and we'll bring these back later. Once you get a message, again, it could be email or Slack, you've got different opportunities on the action side, which we just did the API LM call. You also going to enter an agent step. And an agent step, what that is saying, hey, we're not going to tell this agent exactly what to do step by step. It's going to figure it out. And so an agent step determines based off of the tools that it has and based off of the prompt that it has, it's going to try to figure out how it gets that job done. So in terms of like different scenarios, like Brett was like, hey, what if I give it multiple YouTube videos? Let's test that out right now. Let's see if that actually, let's see how it works. And so now it's getting that initial message. And as an agent, it's going to loop through as many times as it needs to and use as many tools as it needs to figure out like what it's going to do. And so in terms of this agent step right now, again, in terms of prompting agents, we've got Markdown. So we've got, hey, here's the prompt. I like adding context of like name and company because it has the ability to search the web. So sometimes it'll look at different information based off of you. So it is helpful, you know, hey, you're a ghostwriter for me, not somebody else. For context, you're going to get some kind of prompt as an introduction and you can decide what needs to be done. Think through, I like limiting agents to like a set amount of steps. And so if you're doing like more deeper research, or for Brett's case, if you're dumping a bunch of different links, you can say, hey, maximum like 7 to 10 steps. It's just helpful for it to think through what's like steps. For this one, for me, I just have it at 3 to 5 because I've seen it run at like 10, 15 steps and the value wasn't quite there. So again, depending on how you imagine this agent getting information, you can add more steps, less steps, but that's there. Then when you prompt an agent, you want to make sure that it knows all the tools it has access to. So it's helpful in the prompt to say, hey, you have access to AI to write posts. You have access to find Google Docs. That's got specific things like meeting notes because you've got access to my drive. You have the ability to get a document once you find it, which is getting information. You can search the web. You can search different pages. You can extract the information. You've got YouTube. And so all this is after adding each skill, just adding it so the agent knows what tools it has. And lastly, in terms of guidelines, as the agent is trying to figure out what to do with the information you give it, this is one, especially in Lindy, that's important, is foundation models are trained to be helpful human assistants. So they always want to ask you like, hey, did I do a good job? Hey, what do you think? You're like, no, I'm just using an agent step. I want you to figure it out. So this is a prompt that's really helpful, saying, hey, you're an autonomous, independent agent who makes the decisions you need to without a human in the loop. Figure out the task through completion. And then personally, based off of different inputs or outputs, I keep adding guidelines for things that I want to see. So I saw that it wasn't doing enough research on a topic. So I was like, hey, you have a product or a startup, make sure you use Perplexity to find more information than just headlines. This one is also, so this is in the if you're using the template, this is just set up as writing style. If there's a specific way you like to get information or write information as a draft, you can add that in here. So again, for my specific writing, I like getting like CEO style memos where it's bullet points, but everything is insightful. And then lastly, again, I'm giving it a set number of steps. You don't have to do this. I want this to be as quick as possible. And based off of some tests, I saw that 3 to 5 works for this. So that's how you set up an agent prompt. Claude Force on it is the best right now for agents. So I would recommend that's the default for Lindy. So can keep that there. And if there's specific tools that you don't want the agent to use autonomously, you can put a human in the loop. You can always put a human in the loop. So before it does anything, it's like, hey, do you want me to grab the YouTube transcript? You could have yourself in the loop at every step. You also can let AI decide. So you can even prompt it, hey, anytime you use a Google Doc, let me know, right? So you could decide a human's in the loop. I don't have a human in the loop for this because it doesn't have the ability to write anything. It's just reading information. And then the last step here is adding in the different tools. So in terms of the tools, we'll go into YouTube. We've got YouTube Scraper. We'll got YouTube Video by URL. So it's got the ability to grab information. We also have the ability to search the web. So we'll do search with Perplexity. Let's pull up some of the Lindy utilities. We're also pull up the AI ones. We'll give it the ability to write, right? We'll give it the ability to draft. So we've got write, Perplexity, YouTube. Let's see what else we're missing here. Web browser.
Search the internet.
The one downside of Lindy, there's over 5,000 integrations. So sometimes if you're looking for like web browser, there's at least 20 of them the same. So there is a little bit of just searching to make sure you get the right ones. I'll do extract web page. Yeah, Nabil, you have a question?
Yes. Hey, Mike. So when you have a prompt around this agent being able to find Google Docs, it says when asked for a specific kind of content like meeting notes, is it that you are allowing it to ask you to point it to a specific Google Doc, or is it just searching continuously all of your Google Docs and pulling as needed to complete the task?
It's a great question. In the agent step specifically, you don't have control of how it uses the skills. So the 2 skills that I gave this agent are find document and get document. And so what that essentially means for Google Docs is it's searching. So it's searching based off of what it thinks it should find. And if it does find something based off the search, it'll get the information from the document and then use it. So this is really all baked into the agent. If you don't want it to search everything, or if you don't want the agent to specifically look at things, you can also have this as a separate step outside of the agent. So if you know that Google Docs is going to be one of the most important like parts of your workflow because you have meeting notes there, research there, whatever it may be, you can actually give it access to specific docs, or again, like have it outside of the agent step. So if you want more control over it, outside of it, you could put it before or after. For this one, I put it right into the agent step because I'm not giving it the ability to write or change Google Docs. We're just doing, hey, it's like searching up using the search tab to figure out, hey, is there anything based off of a conversation with Nabil? If there is, let's get the information. Let's see if it's helpful. So it's really just right now searching and exploring.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Cool. So we've got all the different tools in this specific agent. We've got send a message afterwards just so we can see what it's doing. And then the last thing for an agent is it just needs a exit condition. And if you hit add exit condition, the most baseline one is once task is complete. That works for 80 to 90% of the agentic tasks. So we'll just keep that here. So once task is complete, just send us out a message. So let's test it. So once we've got that set up, we're going to talk to this agent. This agent's going to do research to try to figure out what makes a good social media post based off of what we shared. And we're going to send a message out. So just hit deployed so it's live. And to Brett's question, let's see if we can actually pull up 2 or 3 YouTube videos. And so right now I'm just going to my YouTube. I'm just going to click the first 3 things on the homepage. Let's see what comes up. We got one Veritasium video. Why farmers can't plant their own seeds. Okay, probably a Monsanto one. We got a startup story. And then a 3D printed. Right. So now what I'm doing, I'm just pulling from YouTube. So let's see here. We're going to start a new task. We're going to test this in Lindy. Hi, Lindy. I think these might make an interesting post. Let me know how to combine them. So we're going to give it 1 YouTube video. We're going to give it 2 YouTube videos, and we'll give it 3 videos. Cool, and let's run it. And my recommendation is whenever you have something set up like your first agent step, you can run multiple test cases at once. So you could run a Google Doc test case and make sure it's reading the Google Doc well. You could run a general query. So actually, let's just run this here too. Let's do, hey, I had really interesting meetings yesterday. Find one and make a LinkedIn post based off the insights. Make sure the data is anonymous. Sort of doxing anyone. So as you're testing out different things, you can pull up multiple instances. So you can see like how does it perform with different tasks that you imagine working with this virtual assistant. So we've got this one running, we've got this one running. So already, so this is where we can watch to see what it's doing. So this is the agent, right? We didn't tell it what to do. We just said, hey, here's YouTube videos. So based off these YouTube videos, let me get the information. So it's pulling out. So to Brett's question, it's pulling all 3 of these right now. So it's got each one of the links. I'll analyze the videos. Okay, so it's reading through the transcripts, searching perplexity, and then now it's writing something. So we'll see. So again, the videos that are coming in are Veritasium's on farming, a startup story to get to 1 million ARR, and 3D printing. So we'll see if it actually got the context. And then let's see on this one. Cool. So to Nabil's point of like, hey, what is this agent doing? We can see here, it's searching through meeting notes and it got a bunch of different outputs. So it's searching through based off these meeting notes. What can I do with it? Looks like we hit a rate limit. Each integration has a different limit. So for this one, it might not be good to just let the agent search because it looks like it can only do 1 find document. So it might be something we do later. But it looks like it got something. So it's working there. So we got 2 agents working at once. Cool, okay, let's see what this has. Hey, 3 stories, 1 powerful lesson, the 1 million panic attack solution. Okay, I didn't read this far into the YouTube video, but it got the information of how she built out a mental health application, the 3D printed Porsche. Okay, so to Brett's question, yes, this can look at multiple YouTube videos. It pulled up a summary for each one of these. This isn't quite the post I didn't really want a summarizing post, so I can say, hey, combine these into one coherent story about startups. And so just like on Slack, as I was going back and forth with that agent, one thing that makes Lindy really interesting is as you have a specific agent or assistant, it has memory and persistence where it will continue down that task, just like if you were just talking to it as a virtual assistant. So let's see how that iterates there. And then let's check on this one. Okay, I'm making a LinkedIn post based off your meeting yesterday. Cool. Okay, let's see what the post is. Yesterday, had a conversation with a biotech leader. Why serendipity is important. They're an SF. Went to a Bits and Bio event. Big companies may be slower, but they have a lot of resources to scale. Cool. So I found one meeting I had yesterday, and it's pulling out some interesting information that's specific to the transcript. And I would use this then to refine what's next. So in terms of baseline, we just told it, hey, I had some good meetings yesterday. Just find one of them and make a draft. It did it. It looked like it struggled a little bit with some failures here, but it cost 1 credit and 1 credit. So we lost 2 cents altogether there, which doesn't really matter. It ended up pulling up this here. So this is the baseline. This is the baseline core of this specific agent. Send it information, give it the tools to process that information, and you can give it more tools too. If you use HubSpot for tracking information, if you use Notion, and a lot of information is in Notion, you can add as many tools as you want to here. This agent is really the engine that starts to do either the research work or the context work, which we'll then use next in the next step for refinement. Yeah, we got a few people with questions. Rohan, you have a question?
I did actually, because I think you kind of partially answered it, because I'm very new to this. So I was trying to understand like how this is like more functional than, let's say, just ChatGPT. But I guess one of the part of the answers I understood is that I don't think ChatGPT can interface with YouTube and Google Docs and all of these other platforms. But in addition to that, do you have any thoughts on why this would be more powerful than? I can see it, but I would like your opinion on why this is more powerful than ChatGPT.
Yeah, great question. And I would say the answer changes every 6 months. At the beginning of this year, ChatGPT had no app connector. So Lindy was the only way using no code to pull in things like Google Docs or calendar information. Now ChatGPT is starting to use MCP for apps. So you can connect Google Drive, you can connect your calendar, you can connect Notion, you can connect Outlook and Gmail. And so as ChatGPT is building out their product as an agentic platform, if you're not in a rush and you can wait 6 months, maybe some of these features will be on chat. The reason specifically to use Lindy, one, they have over 5,000 integrations. So if there's any place where you have data or information, you don't have to spend 3 to 5 hours as an integration engineer. You can just use these. They're one click and they work. So whether you're scraping information from TikTok, X, YouTube, or some internal data sources or different applications, the integrations is really one of the things that sets Lindy apart. And they just work, right? So if you're using a tool like NAN, sometimes when we were testing out the Gmail one, it took a half hour just to get Gmail up, and Lindy, it took 20 seconds. So a lot of integrations, they work out of the box. That's 1. 2, you can actually have multiple inputs and outputs for a single agent at any step. So this is where it really starts to feel like a team member agent and assistant, and not just like a single workflow. So for chat, you have to meet chat at chat.com, and that is where that's where you get to use it. For Lindy, any point where you want again to have an input or output for the agents. Right now we have the web chat, we have Slack. We could also add in, you could even say like one really interesting trigger is a schedule one. So you could say every single day at noon, run this workflow. Like I'm biased. I like to proactively give things to my assistant. You could say, I don't want you to do that. I just want you every day at 12 p.m. I want you to share ideas with me. So now you could run this on a schedule, which would also run the workflow. So by being able to have multiple inputs and outputs, it helps make sure that your any information you're using is in as many places as you need to. So for the question of how do we make this a learning agent, you could also build up a database of all of your posts and how they're performing. And you could actually feed that back in so that this agent is getting smarter over time. So yeah, and then the last thing I'll share too is We're using the agent step as the main flow here, but we're also about to use different conditional logic so that specific parts of the next steps only go through if they fit that logic. And then also we're gonna use a couple different integrations like Google Drive or Google Sheets for a light database, and then multiple LLM calls. So as of right now, if you're using ChatGPT, if you're using a reasoning model, it's deciding what to do, kind of like this agent step. In Lindy, the general best practice right now for different agents is being able to actually set it up so that what you want it to do, it will do as a workflow. And you can have, I've seen Lindy's, we've helped people build Lindy's with up to 100 steps in it. So you can now start thinking about like the complexity of, we're just doing a quick 1 hour getting started. You could spend, and it took about an hour to make this Lindy and test it. You could spend 2 or 3 hours this week, and this Lindy could be twice the size in terms of whatever you want it specifically done. So that level of customization, personalization can be really helpful depending on the workflow.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Brett, I'm gonna come back to you in 1 second. I'm just gonna get the next step going on the build for people who are building along step by step, and then we'll come back for your question.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of this, again, we've got the core engine, send a message to our virtual ghostwriter, get a message out. Once we get that message out and we get a reply, this is one thing, again, I think where Lindy is really interesting. It's using natural language for conditions. So in terms of conditions, we're gonna do 3 right here. We're gonna say, hey, go down this path if the user wants more research done, there's missing information, or the research agent can help. And so now again, we're not writing any conditional logic. We're just speaking in natural language, and we're saying, hey, if we need to run this again, we'll go down this path. We can say, hey, go down this path if the user wants the copy edited and refined to their own voice as a final draft. And then we'll do one more that says, go down this path if the draft is approved. And so what you can already see here is we're starting to make different paths where we could even start doing agent handoffs. So for people who are like, hey, I want to spend 0 time on LinkedIn. You could, once the draft is approved, you could then send it and post it on LinkedIn. I'm out of scope for this build, but you can start saying, hey, once these tasks and once the information hits a certain point, do something with it. And so in terms of these conditions, the first one, if the user wants more research to be done, what we're actually going to do is we're just going to send it right back to the agent. My main goal for this agent is that it's really the core engine for this whole thing. So if anything ever comes back that's like lower quality than I wanted, I don't have to go back and re-prompt everything. I just want it to go through the steps again with more information. So just like you would give a virtual assistant feedback, I like this feedback loop because I can just message it on Slack or wherever I'm at here. So that's one of them. And let's clean up this so we can see it. Then in terms of other conditions, if the user wants it copied, edited, or refined to their own voice. And so this is for someone asking like, hey, how do we make sure this is personalized to us? Here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 2 LLM calls. So that one that we did in the beginning, so let's just do an LLM call. We'll add one, and let's add another one, LLM call. So now we've got 2 LLM calls here. And what we're doing here is we're doing 1 LLM call, like an LLM as a judge, which is editing the post. And then we're doing 1 LLM call as a writer, which we can actually, there's a write specific one. Take care, Annabelle. Thanks for joining. Let's see. There's a write specific node, and now it's writing. So now, once we have an initial draft, but we really want it personalized to our own posts, now we have one for this editor. We're going to change the system prompt to, hey, you're not a helpful assistant. You're actually a LinkedIn ghostwriting assistant. Again, I like Quad Sonnet 4. Not only is it best benchmark for agents, it's also good for writing. So we're going to keep that as the model. You can switch the model if you want. If you like Chat 5 or something different. And so now what we're doing, that same prompt we were testing earlier in the editing side that says, hey, get feedback based off the criteria. Here's a sample post. And then lastly, here's the LinkedIn post to focus on. What we're going to do, now it's going to edit based off of the initial draft. That's something more like my style. And then we're going to take that output message. So it's getting the draft there. So we've got send message, editor. And then for the writing one, we're gonna do this to manual. So we're manually prompting it. The user, use the feedback in this. So we're gonna use the output from the editor, use the feedback from this agent to update and finalize this LinkedIn draft. And the LinkedIn draft is again coming out of this initial send message point. So we're gonna save that. And then we're just going to send a message at the end so we can see what it's saying. So it's deploy. Let's say write a post about AI agents and marketing teams. Now we're just going to test it. So as we're testing it, I'll take a few questions. Brett, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question on one. The first question I had was, in the main AI agent, do you find that if you give that agent too many skills, it has a tendency sometimes to get a little funky and not necessarily giving you the output you want, like you limit the quantity of skills you actually give? I've found that, I don't know, 5 to 8 skills at the most is kind of the limit that I've been playing with. But
yeah, it's a great question. I would say no. An agent step in itself is really wild. We're letting an LLM think through what it wants to do, pick the tools it wants to do, and prompt the tools it wants to do. And so the way to kind of control that is just with a tighter and a larger prompt. The largest Lindy I've seen, we did a hackathon with Lindy here in San Francisco. They have a Lindy called the Donna Assistant, based off of the Donna and the character.
Oh, yeah.
It has 70 tools and it just works. Is it perfect using all 70 tools? Definitely not. It's an agent with a bunch of tools, but in their prompt, it's the same structure. They let it know all 70 tools it has. There's a couple guidelines for how the team is using that right now. It's a Slack assistant, but I think that's the most amount of tools that I've seen. But also know that the prompt reflects that. So the more information you give it, or the more tools you give it, the more information and context you have to give it here. Again, it's like working with an assistant. If you don't tell them what to do with different tools, or if you don't have different guidelines, it will just kind of figure it out, and that the results of that might be underwhelming. So
it's the size and quality of the prompt you find that gives it the access to the skills that you actually give it to.
Yep.
That's how you do it. Okay, fair enough. And then the other final note I was going to say is the last 2 prompts you just used for the editor and writer component. Maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see that in your Notion page. So like those aren't necessarily, like, I see the agent prompt as a whole. Your editor prompt is 1 line, but I don't see.
Let me copy and paste that in for you.
Maybe I'm off, but
no, I think, let's see. We're going to share this tab here. Yeah, we got this guy. Oh, feel free to refresh the page. We had the systems prompt for the editor, but we didn't have that one. So thanks for calling that out. And then we also have the writing prompt is just 2 lines, but we'll copy that in here too. Thanks for that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, for sure. We have time for another question too. If anyone has a question, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. Thanks for coming through, Matt. And spending time with us on the Wednesday. Yeah, go for it.
So it looked like in the agent step node, you chose output in the template you gave us, but it looked like when you were walking through, you selected some other output under the send message.
Let's see. So
it was a variable, sorry, not an output. So you have in the prompt itself, when you said the reference.
Yep. So for this one, I was pulling out this send message output in the template. I think the template's referencing the Slack, and I don't know. Oh, it also has the output.
Yeah, but you chose message in the other one is why I was thrown off.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Good call there. So
it was in the agent though. I think in the agent step.
Agent step 2. Agent step doesn't have any variables, so the variables we're pulling on are for the editor, just so it knows, hey, we have.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, you see a message there. Yep. Okay. Yep. It was under. I think it was under editor. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So output was correct. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for calling that out.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason that this is pulled back in. So for context, Lindy has all the information from each step, but it's such a large context window. It's helpful in the prompt to give it back the specific information if we're ever referencing it. So that's why we're doubling this up, is because of context raw, it kind of loses it. We're just like, nope, based off of the message that you drafted, that's what we want to focus on. So that's why we're calling that back as a variable. Ken asks, is there a list of skills to activate? If you click on the template in Notion, you can find the skills there. And also, you can take a screenshot here if you need to. And I would say for skills, again, really, you can think about skills as what tools do you want the agent to pull from to make your copywriting or your social media posts interesting. These are just the areas that I find interesting: web research, YouTube videos and podcasts, and my Google Docs. So you can add as many skills as you want here. You can also remove the skills. This is just a skill list to get started. And reminder, as you do add different skills to the agent, just make sure you're updating this part of the prompt, because if it doesn't know what tools it'll have, it won't think through, won't be able to figure out what to use them for. So we've got that, and now we're just gonna finish this agent off. So let's go back into test. Let's see if we're actually getting the condition paths working. Every time you build on something, it's good to test it. So let's see here, write a post about agent marketing teams. We can see it searched the web. It wrote up something. Here we go, they're writing the playbook. We move beyond chatbots. Okay, this works. Please draft in my own voice. So this is the initial output from the agent, and we're trying to test here. Let's see what we're getting. Hey, the editor failed because the text does not have a block. Please check your agent. So let's go back here. Let's see what error we're getting. This information. Let's see. Messages. Let's try output. Maybe messages is giving the error. So to John's point, let's try output instead of messages. Because I had this working in Slack, this configuration is new. So let's try this one more time. So now we're just testing, hey, we're in agent about marketing, and we're see if we can get down the conditions. And this is, in terms of debugging an agent or Lindy, it's usually just adding a branch or a set of steps, running through a couple different tests. And again, you can run multiple tests at once. We're just gonna do one because all we need is one here. And usually if I'm building it out, I'll wait the like 20, 30 seconds and keep going. But yeah, in terms of time, I'll make sure we finish this. Andrew, do you have a question?
No, just a point. I'm building a fairly complicated Lindy right now. And when I run into a roadblock, I use ask and in the agent builder and let Lindy fix it. It's pretty amazing how it can fix itself.
That's awesome. That's an awesome point. This was released 2 weeks ago. So I still have mental models of like, I've got to fix everything myself. And so to Andrew's point, great point here. The agent builder on this left, it has context for what you're building. It's a copilot for Lindy itself. So if you ever get stuck or if you get an error, you don't have to like phone a friend or contact support on Lindy. You can use the agent builder here, which it's getting better over time. And that's awesome to hear, Andrew, that you use that directly in building. It's a mental model I still need to refresh because I'm used to just building them manually. So that's this feature down here.
I mean, I'm brand new. I did a masterclass with Ethan and Flo about a week and a bit ago. And since then, I've just been diving in. So when I saw you coming up with something for Lindy, I think I'm going to be using this a lot. And I find the agent builder just saves me so much time.
It does. It's so helpful. You don't have to manually know all the integrations. If you get an error you don't know, you don't have to look through it. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can even just say, I want to do this, and it will build your agent from scratch and then take you through the iterations, and you know, you don't need to know hardly anything to build.
Yeah, exactly. You can go from blank canvas to any task, which is super interesting. Yeah. It's crazy to be in a time where Lindy as an agent is making no-code agents for you to use. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Andrew. Super helpful for everyone on the call too. And so just this last thing that we're testing right now, it's saying, hey, I like this draft, write it in my own voice. And we can see here that it pulled the condition. So it says, hey, the user wants this draft written. Let's make sure that it actually pulled the information. So we're using output instead of messages. And it's not talking about philosophy anymore, which is the reference point. So we can say, hey, agents are changing the way we're marketing. We think about how we think about work itself, going team from skeptical to obsess. Nice. So now we have a baseline post that's written in my own voice coming out of this specific track. And so just to highlight here is usually the more specific, especially for copy, everyone usually has a different style, or there's maybe different references. You could have other people's LinkedIn posts. You could put in a book on copywriting, whatever ways that you think makes good copy, or the ways your audience is responding. This is a part of the workflow that you can continuously to update or tweak just to make it more personally yours. So it's not just the general AI copy, or it's not the Michael or the John's or the Andrew's copy. It's whatever you want it to be based off of. Also, can be platform specific. So the way I was thinking through this agent workflow is how do you make something that could also write your YouTube descriptions, your podcast copy, your Instagram. So this is also where this becomes modular, where you can pull in different posts too. So this condition working. Last thing I'm just going to show to wrap this up. Once the draft is approved, right now I have just a Google sheet that ends up being a calendar for all of the posts. And so for this one, again, in terms of integrations, just one click, log into your Google account if you're using that, and it should work. And we've got LinkedIn posts here. We've got LinkedIn calendar here. And so I'm just using this on auto because I just need it to fill in the information of like when it should post and the different image and then the draft itself. So all this is saying is once we go through all of these different processes, let's actually just have one source of truth, and that's here. And then once it updates, we can just have it send message just so we have a confirmation. I like that confirmation just so I know it's doing. And this is the agent. We've got the ability to use this as an engine to do research, draft different things. We can have a feedback loop saying, hey, I don't like this. You can say, I don't like this as many times as you want and iterate. You can then, once you do like it, it'll refine it in your own voice. And then the final thing it'll do is it'll make a content calendar for you. And the reason we're ending with this within this specific workflow, this becomes a handoff for a future agent. So once you have the content calendar in a database, you can do things like automatic posting. So you can say, hey, take the date. If it's approved and you've got the date, post it on LinkedIn. Someone was asking, can we make this system learn? You can. You could have a whole link. You could have in this specific database, I also have like an archive of other posts with data around how posts are performing. I don't have that connected to this agent yet, but just by making an initial database source, we can use that as a knowledge base here. So I can say, when this message is received, think about past high performing posts and then use that to tell the agent. So by having a database where we're scheduling posts, scraping information, if people like the build alongs, we can show this as the next step. I'm setting this up as an agent that can learn in the future. The first step was just getting something that was interesting on the ghostwriting side. So that's why this is set up here. And those are some ways to make it smarter. You can pull in information from LinkedIn in a, if you wanted to put it all in one, you could have it on one canvas. I like having one workflow, one canvas, and then end up doing handoffs between the agents, like using a Google Sheet to share data. So that's the full agent. Happy to take some questions here as, yeah, we got a few more minutes. Looks like, Brett, do you have a follow-up question or is that left over?
Yeah, real quick. Your voice that you're grabbing real quick to kind of make it kind of go to that. Obviously, it looks like you put that into an editor prompt, right? It's kind of how you're picking yours up. And what I was curious about, two things is, one, you're giving it sort of a sample. You're not really pulling from an actual LinkedIn post. Like you're not going to LinkedIn because there's no tool or anything where it's going to LinkedIn itself to grab posts, right? You're just giving it a sample itself.
Yep. For this
okay
agent, it's just
that's how you're doing it.
Yep. And I just took my highest performing prompt or highest performing post in the last 30 days here.
Got it. Just real quick, just for a tip. And I think Andrew was in the same class I was in, that Lindy builder class. But one of the things that they did with that is they used Appify. And they actually ran a separate component that said, look, go to my LinkedIn, grab the last, 4 or 5 posts of mine, and then create a prompt that creates my voice.
Yeah.
So you can actually, that was another kind of cool thing I thought that was kind of neat.
Great recommendation. That you can, in LinkedIn, you can grab in posts by URL. You also, one of the newest nodes in Lindy is computer use. So LinkedIn is very finicky right now, where it doesn't like bots scraping things. So your posts have to be public. Sometimes it needs the URL. Sometimes it can't always find the URL. So sometimes that fails. Most of the times it'll work. You also can start up a virtual machine and you could log in on LinkedIn. This is one way too, where if you wanted like specifically your LinkedIn information, as of right now, LinkedIn lets browser use work. And so this is a way to use browser use too, which there's so many different variations depending on the data you want to pull and how deep you want to go with the personalization. Appreciate that tip, Brett. Yeah, John, do you have a question or something you want to share?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, I was in that class too, Brett. I agree. I was thinking the same thing as he was showing that how to create your voice. I just have a question about images. Obviously, social media posts often have an image associated. I know Lindy doesn't do a lot, but Marvin showed something fairly recently using Nano Banana. I was just curious about what you do for that. Yeah, so go ahead.
Good question. Usually for LinkedIn posts, my main assumption is I use LinkedIn like as if I was like talking to a team member. So I usually just do screenshots. So even for the post I had today, it was a screenshot of the blog post. I like that because I personally don't like AI generated images. But for you or for yourself, there's a couple different generate image nodes on Lindy itself. You've got different apps like Imager. Let's see. I think they have image gen from OpenAI. Image gen. All images is one of the connections.
Okay, well, I misspoke. I thought we didn't have the ability to yet, so that's my fault. Okay.
Yeah, there's a few. So there's a few. I would say, depending on which platform you like best, there's a few platforms like Imager, Banner Bear, Canva is connected. So there's a few ways to get images. Google Vision is there if you want to understand images. And then if you're using something like Nano Banana, it's not in Lindy yet. I think it'll be in Lindy. Like if we just go to LLM call, and I may be wrong. If someone else has information, feel free to correct me. I was trying to use Nano Banana prepping for this. I don't think, which is just Flash 2.5 image.
Yeah, I think he used API in his demo. He did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you can do here is if you have the API key, you can always run code or do an HTTP request, and then you're just doing that manually, calling it in, and then bring that into Lindy. And for yeah, so that's a way you can get images. There's a couple different image generation nodes that work on Lindy. I don't think that's Lindy's strength, but they're there. And then if you're using something that I think Nano Banana is super interesting from an image generation perspective, you can run that as an API call within Lindy, and you'd get the link back.
Got it. And you said you use a screenshot. You don't use that within the agent. You just do a screenshot yourself. Is that what you meant when you said earlier?
Right now, I'm doing it myself, and I think the next steps, when I think about fully automating this, I think being able to have a next step with computer use, saying based off this post, use the web or find the link and take a screenshot of whatever is there, and then save the screenshot. So, in terms of next steps, yeah, image would be something that could explore next.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. We got a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, if it's your first agent whatsoever, or you're now an agent expert because you just went through the 1 week cohort with Lindy, feel free to just chime in. Goal is just, I think it's way more fun to hear other tips and other people, like hearing Andrew, hey, the agent builder works on Lindy. I now have more trust in that because previously I'm like, this is a little wild having an agent build an agent. So we got a few more minutes. Whole goal is just share best practices, ask any question that you have. I'm happy to be helpful if we can.
I mean, just one of the things that I've come up with, and I've seen it a couple of times now with Ethan, and is making use of a loop. If you're trying to have something look at something a number of times, it's best to put that inside a loop, and you'll get a better output for that. Like if you're looking at multiple instances of the same kind of data, rather than it running it concurrently, it'll run it one after the other in a loop. Makes it a lot easier for the output.
Yep. So for people who try to understand what is a loop or what is interest sharing, loop mode within Lindy, it says for this given data. So it could be LinkedIn URL data, it could be contact information, it could be multiple videos. This is really good for spinning up. What it'll do is for each point of data, it'll spin up an instance that goes through the flow that you tell it. So you don't have to run one workflow 50 times if you're updating information. You could run one workflow, it'll spin out 50 sub-agents, and then it'll do that, whatever you tell it to within the loop, and then it'll exit the loop once it's done. And the largest loop that I've run on Lindy was 350. It was getting ready for a conference. I just took all the speakers, filled out a full sheet with it, and it worked. So it's a really interesting way to get a lot of data really quickly, or to Andrew's point, run a lot of repetitive workflows simultaneously. So it helps with speed and also accuracy. You don't have one agent trying to do 100 steps. You've got 50 sub-agents or 100 sub-agents trying to do 2 steps each.
And it's cheaper. It actually reduces your token usage.
Yep, because you don't have the feed forward where it's trying to take in everything, and each one is a separate agent. Great tip. Awesome. Any other questions or comments?
I guess going back to the API thing for a second, you started to show that. It looked like, again, I just watched Marvin do it really quickly on LinkedIn, but he just said he went to Claude and Claude wrote the code. So you just put that right in the prompt itself, like what the specific information is for the API call. Is that right?
Yeah, could you actually, if you have the link for Marvin, can you share what you were looking at?
Sure, it's on I have to dig it out. Yeah, it was on LinkedIn. Let's see if I can find it. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. You can have, so for the one that I was showing was just an HTTP request, and you can have help you write, if anything's not working, you can have it write that request for you. But usually you're pulling in information from Gemini's API, and then you're telling Lindy to, hey, use this information to go back and forth. And feel free, Dylan, if you've got recommendations for HTTP requests, if you want to chime in too.
Well,
Yeah, I think that's different. I think what he's talking about with Claude is probably a code block that you run in Lindy, because HTTP is going to be like, you put in the URL, you put in the parameters you want to get some data back.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, it was very, very quick. He was just showing a quick overview of how he got it to work with Nano Banana.
I see. Cool. Yeah, you can run code blocks in Lindy too, in Python or Java. So
that may have been it. Yeah, I quickly looked at it. So I'm trying to get.
So before I drop here real quick, Michael, I just want to say thanks for putting this on, man. This is like really, really cool. I love seeing all of us start to, learn and put this stuff together, and you hosting this thing for us just to, put another use case and another ability to learn is awesome. Thank you so much for really doing that.
You're welcome. Thanks. We're glad you spent a whole hour with us. That tells us that this is worthwhile hanging out over. So thanks for joining. Appreciate the gratitude. And I would say our main goal for this fall is we're switching off between build days and office hours. We just want to help just the community, just share best practices. It's the Wild West with Lindy, and unless you're working with the team directly and get information, sometimes it can be hard to figure out. So if you've got additional questions, or if you have things you want to demo, come through next week for office hours, or your heads down, stay heads down, come back whenever you want to. So we're going to continue these build sessions and office hours, and we like to rotate so people can share what they're working on in demo, and then also we can test out and try some things